A question that I would ask you then is what is your dating life?
I don't have a dating life.
So you don't date?
No.
Do you have a perspective about who you want to marry? Do you intend to get married?
I do intend to get married and have kids.
So where are you at on that?
I'm trying to get prepared for that mentally.
What does that mean? You're 26 years old.
I like my life. I like being single. I like being a guy. I like what I like. I like reading books. I like doing my show. I'm a pretty antisocial person. And it's a big adjustment for a man to go from having a life where you can do whatever you want, go wherever you want, unaccountable, everything like that, to then you have to be roommates with women and children. It's a totally different lifestyle. And for someone like myself, I'm a pretty eccentric and, kind of out there person. I don't have a regular sleep schedule. I'm awake all night. I'm asleep all day. And my sleep schedule's moving around all the time. I like to go out on drives all the time. The idea of my wife sending me out the door, okay, be home by 10, call me and tell me where you're going. Or, I go on a trip. I got to get the car seats and buy all the plane tickets and stuff like that. It's kind of cramping my style.
Women are not competing with other women. They're competing with men's peace. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, and this is how a lot of Gen Z guys feel. It's not that a lot of them are sexless, right? A lot of them, it's not that they have another choice of a woman to date if someone comes in, but you're competing with silence. And women that don't understand men have no idea how much energy they spend, and they don't appreciate how much energy they spend just being around us and listening to our problems. They don't get it.
And sometimes when I see the things that you say, I do think, okay, he doesn't take into account family. It's just Nick. Nick is in his own world, which can be, I think, a quite selfish perspective, which is fine. That's what you're saying. You like being selfish is another way to say what you just said. I like being selfish and I don't want to give of myself to somebody else.
I also think there's something selfless involved, which is to say, I could go and start a family and drag them into a world of mine, which is pretty chaotic. I mean, is this really the kind of a lifestyle? If I'm banned on everything and I can't make a living, I'm banned from banking, I'm banned from credit card processing, I'm getting doxxed, people are showing up to my house trying to kill me, things like that. I also don't appreciate the lecture. You don't know me, so I know you're married, I know you're older than me, but you don't know me, you don't know my life, you don't know my situation. I don't think you're in a position to give me advice, especially as a woman, honestly. I don't think women, this is something in the right wing, we say we're anti-feminist, and then women go around telling men what to do. We're not their husbands. And, I don't really buy into that ideologically, but that's besides the point. My life has been tumultuous from the very beginning. From the time I turned 18, people were coming for my neck and trying to get me, and I was kicked out of college. And then, once you're branded as an anti-Semite, before it became cool or popular, can't get a job, can't make a living, get banned from PayPal, all this kind of stuff. That's a very difficult environment to try to have a dating life. What do? I go out on Tinder, I go to a bar, and I say, hey, I'm a neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes that the ADL is writing articles about every day. I'm going to start a dating profile on Tinder. People are going to screenshot that, mess with me in all kinds of ways. It's a very difficult predicament, actually, for me, because I took on basically a huge sacrifice at the beginning. And I don't know that you really appreciate that enough. I think that you're somebody who, you had a career in politics for as long as I was fighting a battle. You were at Daily Wire with a contract. You're at Turning Point. You're making good money. You're doing book deals. You're part of this thing that I'm criticizing and paying a very heavy price for at a time when no one's saying those things, when it's very unpopular. And it's not to say that I'm a victim, because I did it willingly and I love it and I would do it again. But it is to say that, you and I have lived very different lives. It's easy, I think, for you to say you had your husband, have your kids, you got your ducks in a row, made quite a bit of money, then you discovered the truth, and then you went out on a limb. And it's not to say you didn't make sacrifices and it wasn't a risk, and it paid off. You're doing great now, and I congratulate you. But with me, there was no calculation. I mean, I almost want to say I was 17. What's your excuse? I was 17 and I woke up and I went balls to the wall, bucket of ice cold water, as you say. I made a lot of enemies, and maybe that wasn't wise, but I told the truth and I took on extremely heavy cost for my personal life. It basically has made it so that I can't have a personal life. I don't even have many friends. It's a little more complicated, I think, than maybe you understand.
I've been meaning to do this one for a while. Is because there's been this thing about male loneliness problem for a minute, especially after COVID. And what I'm noticing is the men aren't complaining. It's always the women complaining about the men being lonely, or the elite, so-called pundits, have been complaining about male loneliness. It's all about one study done in 2021, right after COVID, talked about the male loneliness problem, that a lot of men were virgins, a lot of men hadn't had sex, a lot of men hadn't had dates in that particular year, the last 12 months or something like that. And they talked about having close personal friends, the lack of close personal friends. And what they're doing is comparing males to females as far as having close personal friends, being lonely, or how men show up being lonely. And I disagreed with it then, I disagree with it now, is because male and females are different. They don't experience loneliness and friendship the same way. It's different. And comparing apples and oranges don't mix. They have to compare apples to apples, or come up with some kind of equivalent. So when I saw this clip about Nick Fuentes talking to Candace Owens about how come he wasn't married, how come he was still a virgin, how come he doesn't date, he said exactly what I thought he would say. Because Nick Fuentes considers himself an incel. He does. He says, I'm an incel. I don't date. I'm a virgin. I don't have sex. And he's 26 years old. Hasn't had sex. He's 26. And he doesn't date. He's 26. And he's not broke. He's fairly successful, in a sense. He's fairly successful. He doesn't date. He's got money. He's got notoriety. He could pick up a chick or two if he really wanted to. Or he could go international if he wanted to, because they did give him his passport back. But he doesn't want to. And he gave a pretty good reason why he didn't want to. He said, it's because I don't want to share my space. I like my life the way it is. I like my freedom the way it is. And sharing roommates or being roommates to a wife and kids was not in his plans, because he has an independent mindset. But that's the way we raise these Gen Z guys, because he's 26, he's Gen Z. These Gen Z guys don't see relationships the same way as the women do, number one, and especially the older guys. They don't see it the same way. Women are not as important to them as they were in past days. And basically, Candace Owens is frustrated is because she's a millennial, which is a generation older, and she still held on to some of those things about getting married and having kids and stuff like that. And she's having a hard time understanding why somebody like Nick Fuentes, that does have the means to get married and have a family, is not doing it. Not even having sex, not even dating. And why is this so common? It's for a whole myriad of reasons, but the thing is, the base reason is because these guys are not lonely for the most part. They don't have companions, but they're not lonely. They like their life the way it is. And they know that these modern women are going to come in with their demands for money, with their headaches, with the demand for more emotional labor from you. And say if you're a gamer, or you like doing your own independent thing, you like your own freedom, wife and kids do bend on the freedom. Basically, you lose all that when you become a husband. Hell, you lose half of that when you become a boyfriend, because it's all about her, keeping her happy, making sure that she's entertained, making sure that she's supported, blah, 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 rather than vice versa. Most of modern women, most of modern girlfriends don't do anything for you except be there, put on their makeup and show up and show off for you. That's about it. They really don't do very much for you. So I'm older, and I couldn't understand why younger men would do it, because if you're older and you're my age and you're doing it, it's no big deal. You've already had your run. You got your women, you had your triple digit not relationships, but having sex, With men, just because you lay down with a woman doesn't mean that you're having a relationship. But I've had more than my share of relationships, short-term and long-term, and more than my share. So I'm not complaining about that. I got kids, I got grandkids. So I know more than my share. But the thing is, when I listen to their arguments, even though I might not agree with them not pursuing or not being with women and having a relationship, to at least see what it's like, which is something that I always say to young men, at least before you turn it down, see what it's like. See what it's like before you turn it down. If it's not to your liking, it's actually understood. I understand that. It's not to your liking, by all means. Go do something else. Go be someplace else. Like I said, there's 4 billion women on the planet. Whether you travel, whether you do it here, whether you date out interracially, go do that. But now I'm understanding why, man. There's a lot of labor and hassle going into being with a woman. And the rewards are shrinking for being with women. Women don't really, honestly and truly, women don't do very much for you. The cost that you put out dating and mating and entertaining and being with a woman, what comes back to you is not worth what you get. Even if you get a so-called pro to have sex, right? A pro knows what she's doing. A pro knows how to get you off. That is her job, right? Most women 90% of women have no clue how to get you off. Basically, they're pretty much live sex dolls. They don't do very much for you. They're not 90% of women. I can tell you, 90% of my women, you have to do all the work. You have to get her in the mood. You got to get her excited. You got to get her wet or whatever it is. You have to have sex. You got to please her. Otherwise, you're going to hear all kinds of complaints. So basically, the sex anxiety is on your part, not on hers. Performance anxiety is on them. I never heard a woman talk about performance anxiety. It's all on the man. Why is that? It's because you have a duty to perform. You have a duty to make her happy. You can't, be a minute man or less than a minute man. Because, naturally it only takes 30 seconds to have an ejaculation for a man. So how to have skill enough to actually extend that to 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, like I had to build up to? That's a lot of performance stress. And the thing is, you got to take her out. You got to spend money on her. You got to make her feel comfortable. You have to entertain her. You got to give game to her. You got to get her excited and to like you and then to have sex. It's a lot. It's a lot. At any point of that process, you fail, you've wasted all your time and all your money. And a lot of young guys don't see the value in going through all of that. And guess what? The women are not making it easier. They're making it harder. And they're wondering why they're alone. Anyhow, but Nick Fuentes has it exactly right. He says, I enjoy my life. I'm independent. And the hassle and the burden of having a wife and kids or girlfriend and blah, 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 the burden of performance, the burden of what I have to carry and what I have to do is too much. For him, I'm not saying for everybody, but for the incels, the 40, 50% of guys out there that are not dating, probably more than that, I understand why. Anyhow, I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you guys next time. This will be just out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.